Do you want to improve your health? Do you want to protect the environment? Do you want to support local businesses? What if I told you there's one thing that you could do that would actually help all three of these things? That is eating seasonally. So today I'm going to share with you some of the things that you can do this fall to eat more of the seasons that will really support your health, your community, and the environment. Hey, I'm Nadia, and today I'm going to talk to you about fall produce and also give you a seasonal eating list that you can use not only in the fall but all year long. When I think about fall, I certainly go to pumpkins, I go to hay rides, the things that I remember from fall as a child. Even my kids right now are getting ready for their fall field trips, going to farms and learning all about the life cycle of a pumpkin and, maybe corn mazes and all that good stuff. But I feel like as an adult, sometimes we forget about the beauty and the wonder of the seasons. One of the things that, when I was younger, I would go grocery shopping. Okay, so I would go into the grocery store, I'd look around, I'd buy whatever was on sale, I'd look around maybe in the produce section if I would eat vegetables, but I was terrible eating when I was younger. But I would go into the produce aisle and I'd look around at the ingredients that I could be buying, and I wouldn't think about what time of year it was. Maybe in the summer I would go more towards corn and stuff like that, but otherwise I didn't think much about when the food was in season and what I should be eating at each time of the year. That didn't even occur to me. In fact, I didn't even realize until I was probably in my mid-20s before I realized that it actually told you where food came from, where the food was grown on the sign in the grocery store. I didn't even realize that was there. And even if I had, I probably would have thought that if it was grown in some exotic location, that it was better. Because I didn't associate the quality of food and the nutrient value of food and the taste of food with the seasons. That connection never occurred to me until I was older and I actually started to appreciate the flavors of food and started to pay more attention to my health and certainly started growing my own food. That's really when it started to hit me that, wow, food that I thought was always around isn't always around here. So now that I'm older and I've had that experience behind me, I really do love to savor the flavors of each season, and that is why I love the concept of seasonal eating. I love the concept of farm to table. Not only for your health, because when you eat locally grown food, it is oftentimes more nutritious, because if it's just been freshly picked, there's been less chance of those vitamins to sort of be gone in the food, and there's lots of studies about that. I'll see if I can find some and link it up in the blog post. So what I've really come to appreciate over the years is appreciating what food is in season at each time of the year. So I want to share with you how you can eat seasonally in the fall, because that's where we are, we're in fall, and what kinds of produce, what kind of fall produce that you can be picking to eat seasonally at this time of the year. So I'm going to talk specifically about fall. If you do want a full seasonal eating list, I do have a download down below that you can get a full list of what's in season at each time of the year, as well as some other tips on, eating seasonally and how you can incorporate that into your diet. So if you're interested in a full scope, there is a link down below as well. The first ingredient that I want to share with you is beets, and I love beets in the fall. While you can grow them throughout the summer and you can get them locally grown potentially in the summer, I do feel like fall is when they are in their prime. That earthy flavor I feel like is just perfect. So I love personally roasting beets. Pickling beets is also really nice. And if you aren't already eating greens off of your beets, so if you're buying them local, beets will come with the greens attached. If you're buying them and they've been sitting on the shelf or they've been imported from somewhere far away, they're probably just going to be the bulb without the greens attached. So that's one indicator that you can get to know how fresh your beets are. Next is pumpkin and all of the other winter squash, like butternut squash, acorn squash. There's actually a ton of them. If you grow your own, there's a whole huge collection of winter squash that you can choose from. And pumpkin, of course, is a classic fall ingredient. And if you want a really good recipe for using up pumpkin, I just shared in my last video pumpkin mousse pie, which is vegan. It uses aquafaba and coconut whip. So if you're looking for a vegan pumpkin recipe this fall, that's one to try for sure. But really, pumpkin and winter squash, they can be used in sweet dishes, savory dishes. There is a whole array. You can pretty much just, I think I even have a cookbook just on winter squash. So it's definitely one where you can go any direction with this ingredient. It is awesome, and it stores really well into the winter as well. Next up is eggplant, and I feel like eggplant is one that you think more of in the summer, but in fact, it takes a really long time to grow eggplant, and it's one of those ingredients that, you know, you may or may not be able to grow it where you live, because it does require a long summer and it requires a fair amount of heat, certainly to get it started. So not all growers will actually have it. If you don't grow your own food, then you might go to the farmer's market and not see any locally grown eggplant, depending on where you live. But if you can find it, I find late summer, early fall is typically when it is in its prime, because it takes the full summer to grow, but it doesn't keep really well like a winter squash because the skin isn't quite as thick. So this is the perfect time for it, and I do have some really good eggplant recipes that I want to share with you guys. I'm just trying to get through everything, but it's also not a super popular ingredient. I find that not a lot of people really know what to do with it. I think the most classic recipe is eggplant parm. My husband, he is obsessed with eggplant parm. If we go to a restaurant, any restaurant there is, if there's eggplant parm on the recipe, he has to buy it. Even if he knows he doesn't like it there, he's like, oh, maybe it's good. I think I'm going to try that again. This guy knows eggplant parm like no one's business. So that is one that is really nice. It sort of hides a little bit of the bitterness that eggplant sometimes has, but also the variety of eggplant that you grow will either be more bitter or not, and then also how big you let it grow. The bigger you let it grow, sometimes the more bitter when those seeds start to get darker inside. I find that it also gets a little bit more bitter. So eggplant is a really nice one for fall. It's kind of the only time of the year, at least in the north, that you can typically find it locally grown. It's not really available any other time of the year than right now. And then next is cauliflower. Cauliflower is in the brassica family. It's with broccoli and kale and cabbage and all that good stuff. But I find cauliflower is the one that is the most short-lived. I find that in the fall it tends to taste the best. This is when I typically like to use it in recipes. I love cauliflower in curries. I love cauliflower as if you make cauliflower rice, and then you can do like flatbreads or pizza crusts and all that kind of stuff. A lot of people are making those right now. I actually see them in the stores now. Companies are getting on that bandwagon, which is smart. They are making pre-made cauliflower rice crust pizza dough. It's not really dough, it's just cauliflower. But it's an awesome one. And if you can find locally grown cauliflower, then you can even rice it and then store it in the freezer. Some places, I think even Trader Joe's sells it like that, where you can buy it pre-riced and then you can use it throughout the winter. So that's a fun one because it's not going to last into the winter like some of the other fall ingredients will last really well into the winter. This one won't. So it's a really good one to use in its prime right now, which is the fall. And then some of the other ingredients like leafy greens, lettuce, spinach, kale, arugula, any of those lettuce or leafy green vegetables tend to be also really, really good at this time of the year. They'll do better in colder weather typically than warmer weather. So one thing that I didn't realize until I started also growing my own food was that lettuce is really hard to grow in the summer because it doesn't love the heat. So unless you can find somewhere shady or unless your summers don't get really hot, it doesn't tend to grow very well. So fall is really, really nice for the leafy greens, and if you're growing things like kale, or if you're buying or growing, whichever, kale, spinach, arugula, any of those, they taste better oftentimes in the fall and in the winter than they do if they were growing in the summer. So another reason to stock up on those at this time of the year. And then what are some of the fruits that are in season in the fall? Because there's definitely fruits, it's not just vegetables. The first one that comes to mind is grapes. So now is the time of year when you'll see, if you have any wineries around you. I happen to live really close to wine country, Niagara-on-the-Lake, and all of the wineries are busy harvesting all their grapes right now for the next couple of weeks and making their wines for the year. So grapes are really, really nice right now. This is when they tend to be in their prime. and also apples and plums. Those are two other, I mean there's plenty, but those are two other really, really popular classic fall fruits. And apples, depending on how you store them, can keep through the winter. Plums, not so much. Plums are typically a fall food that you want to try to eat right now. So if you can get your hands on some locally grown plums, then definitely do that, because you can probably find some unique varieties that you might not be able to get at the grocery store with imported varieties. So tell me, do you eat seasonally? Is it something that you strive to do? Is it something that maybe you're going to think a little bit more about after watching this video, or is it already something that you love to do? Share your comments down below. Let me know what your favorite fall ingredient is, what you love to cook at this time of the year. I'd love to hear about it. I shared with you some of the reasons why I love to eat in harmony with the seasons. I'd love to hear why you do it as well. So I hope you enjoyed this video and got some great new ideas on how to eat with the seasons in the fall. Don't forget there is that free downloadable guide below, and I hope you have a great week, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.